Hey, this is Ryan Jones with Serverless Guru. In this video, we're going to be continuing where we were in the last one, where we covered creating an AWS account and actually creating our first Lambda function. So what we're going to do is first, we go ahead and cover, I just opened up a new terminal. Before I was using the built-in terminal from Mac. What I'm actually going to be using is something called Hyper. If you did want to use Hyper, you can search for that, Hyper.js. So Hyper.js is a really cool terminal, and you can download that and start using it. It also has themes, and allows you to customize it in your own ways. So if you want to do that, go ahead and follow that. I'm going to go ahead and jump past that. I just wanted to cover why my terminal was different. And now we're going to go ahead and cover creating a new project. So before, in the last video, we created a project called My New Project. What we're actually going to do is create a project called My New App. So let's go ahead and do that. We're going to do SLS. So you can actually do serverless create, or you can do SLS create. It's kind of shorthand. So all serverless commands can actually do SLS or serverless. So in future commands, we're probably going to use SLS. So we can do --templates, AWS Node.js, --path. We're going to call it My New App. Okay, so now we have this project created, and what we're going to do is we're going to open it in Atom. So let's go ahead and open My New App. And so I'm going to close out our old one, kind of fill this space, line it up a little bit. Okay, and now we're back to where we were. So because of the idea of just kind of showing a different way to deploy that, now that we kind of have a good idea of how to create these projects quickly, let's go ahead and jump into cutting out some of the dead stuff. So we can take out all these comments. We're actually going to cover the different parts of this in future videos. For now, we're just going to take these out. And you can see how small our file actually is. So all we're doing is creating a service called My New App. It's using AWS as a provider and using Node.js 6.1. And it's using the handler.hello function. So this is things that we covered in the last video. So now what we're going to do is, let's go ahead and do a deploy of this. So let's cd into My New App. And let's do a SLS deploy-b. So while this is deploying, let's go ahead and create a new terminal window. And what we can do is cd into desktop. This is just getting back to our folder that we're in, serverless. And then we're going to ls. So you can see we had our old project, our new project. What we're going to do is cd into our old project, my new project. And then we're going to actually tear down this stack. So you can do SLS remove -v. And what this is going to do, it's going to look at your serverless.yaml. It's going to read what's inside of it. And then it's going to go to CloudFormation. And it's going to try to tear it down. So we can actually go to CloudFormation right now. And we should be able to see different stacks deploying and removing. So we've already just removed it. It was very fast. The bigger your stack is, the more time it'll take. Now if we refresh, looks like we have My New App Dev. It has been updated completely. And now if we go back to our terminal, we'll be able to see this here. Let me close out some of these tabs. So My New Project, this is successfully removed, which means we are no longer have those resources up. And if we go back to My New App, we can see that it has successfully deployed this new project. This is great. So now let's do something like we did similar. We can open this up. I'm actually going to grab a new window and toss this in there just to make it easier for me. And we are going to go up to Lambda again. So we're just going to repeat this a little bit just to kind of show how you go about doing this, but then we're going to move past it. So configure a new test event, 1, 2, 3, create, and test. Sweet, everything is working. That's awesome. And now let's go ahead and pay attention to a couple of things. So this service information comes back when you actually do a deployment. It actually specifies what was created, where it was created. So it shows that our stage was dev, and it shows that the region was US East 1. So you actually have lots of different regions. If you go back to the AWS console, you see North Virginia here, but you can actually hit a drop down, and these are all the supported regions. So North Virginia is actually US East 1, Ohio is US East 2, North Carolina is US West 1, and Oregon, where I am, is US West 2. So what we want to do is we probably want to deploy to the region that's closest to us. This is best practices from Amazon. So what we're going to actually do is deploy this to US West 2. So I'm going to do something called stage. Let's go ahead and start with region. So if you look down here, you can see that our region was US East 1. What we're going to do is change the region to US West 2. And let's go ahead and change the stage as well to test. So now this is going to override the default values that serverless comes with. And if we do SLS deploy -v, what it's going to do is create an exact mirror of that stack, but in the US West 2 region and under the stage test. So what this is good for is that you can actually have multiple stages. So you can do deploy to prod for production, you can deploy to test for your testers, you can deploy to dev for your development, you can deploy this to US East 1 or US East 2 or US West 1, and so on. So these are kind of cool things that the serverless framework allows you to do to make your code dynamic and actually be able to kind of snapshot your code. So this is something that the serverless framework has kind of opened up, and something that gets me really excited about it is that you no longer have to rewrite the code over and over again, right? So the infrastructure. So when they say infrastructure as code, this is actually what this file is. It's basically code that can be committed to source control, to GitHub. You can actually submit this project to GitHub or to Bitbucket. Then you can actually track the changes and the commits. And if anybody changes that serverless file, it's actually changing your infrastructure. You can see what they changed. And if something breaks, you can actually roll back. And that's what the power of this is. But you can also do something like we just did, where we just deploy to stage test and to the region US West 2. And we did it in a matter of maybe a minute and a half. So this is cool. Now let's actually go and show what this looks like in the console. So if we go to CloudFormation, and remember we're in North Virginia, which is US East 1, we shouldn't be able to see our new stack. So what you see is my new app dev. What it should show is my new app test, but we don't see that. So what we can do is go to US West 2, which is Oregon. And when CloudFormation opens up, we can see my new app test, and we can actually go from there. So awesome. So now that we have this working, let's go ahead and start making this dynamic. So we can take this region and instead do region $option region, and then do US West. Let's do US West 2. And then stage, we can do the same thing, $option stage dev. So this is basically, this is your default value, and this is your dynamic value. Option just basically means that you can pass it in as a flag. So you can do SLS deploy -region, we'll do -v, or you can do SLS deploy --stage -v. So this will allow you to deploy to test dev prod, but without having to manually set this each time. So now your stack is even more dynamic, and all the different variables like stage or region are actually coming from the terminal. So to show this, let's actually do SLS deploy --stage, and let's say dev, and let's say dash v. So we already have a US West 2 stack under test, which you can see here, my new app test, in this actual US West 2 region. But now what we're going to do is actually deploy another one to test to dev, sorry, using our flag this time. So this is really cool. It allows you to create mirrors of that stack, as I said, and this allows it to make it more dynamic. What we can also do is we can add a section down here called custom, and we'll just do this while that's deploying because it takes a little bit. I like to do this for my projects. I'll create a section called default, and then I'll add region, and I'll say US West 2, and I'll add stage, and I'll say dev. And so default, this is what I usually keep as like my default values. And then you can actually, instead of hard coding this here, just to make it a bit cleaner, you can say self custom dot default dot region, self custom dot default dot stage. And so now anytime that we're looking for default values, they're in one place, and we don't really have to look for multiple places. And this will come in handy when you have values from all across the stack. So imagine this, instead of being 16 lines with actually 1,000 lines, then having kind of this organization plays a really big role. So now that we have this there, we can actually see that it's deployed. It's at the US West 2 region, and it's under dev. Now if we go back to stacks, we can see dev and we can see test. And so let's go ahead and click dev. This is awesome. We have our dev stack. Now what we can do is SLS remove, and you can actually remove using the flag as well. So let's go ahead and remove the dev stack that we just created. And so the process that actually happens is that we pass this dash stage dev. It goes into stage. It looks at option stage. It said, did they pass a flag? Did they pass dash stage? If they did, then use that value. If they didn't, then use our custom default stage. So that would be dev. And then we can remove test. Awesome. And now if we go back to CloudFormation and we look at these stacks, we can see that there is nothing there. Awesome. So that's kind of the intro to creating dynamic variables and things like that. In the next video, we're going to be covering how to create a external file for configuration. And the reason why we're going through how to do these things right now is because it'll save us a lot of time in the future. One big thing is that as your projects grow and the scope of them grow, you need a way to organize it properly so that you can maintain and actually build off of it without getting overwhelmed. So this is kind of my strategy and how I've been going about it when I've been working on serverless projects that get to 500 lines of a serverless file, 1,000 lines of a serverless file for a project where you're spinning up 2 database like DynamoDB tables. You're doing like auto scaling. You have like S3 buckets for image storage. You have 5 to 8 Lambda functions being declared. So this here, but then you're also doing like cron jobs so that it's like actually being triggered on a timer. There's a lot of stuff that can actually go into this. This is a very basic level, but it's good to have a good foundation. So with that, this is Ryan Jones with Serverless Guru. I will see you next time.